is a proud member of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. Listen to other great tech podcasts at www.techpodcasts.com.
Yo, you are in the right place at the right time, listening to the right thing. Tech Webcast. Congratulations on choosing such an awesome thing to listen to. You are clearly very smart. You're into tech stuff. You love hearing Brad and Jason and their guests chat, and you're probably really good looking too. Well done. So let's get into it. The weekly tech extravaganza that is Tech Webcast. In 3, 2, 1, let's go!
Oh my God, that was epic. Welcome to episode 191 of the Tech Webcast podcast, recorded on Saturday, the 2nd of June, 2012. Tech Webcast is recorded every Saturday and rebroadcast on the Aussie Tech Heads on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. How was that?
That's very cool.
Brilliant.
Welcome
Very
to the show.
good.
Awesome.
I honestly
Pretty
felt
good.
like literally anything I could say after that epic intro would have been a letdown. I almost wanted to just come out of the closet or something and just announce I'm gay to get it.
Wow.
at the beginning.
It's a bit hard to top, isn't it?
All right. So we've got Jason. Hey, Jason.
Hey, Brad, how's it going?
Good, buddy. How's your week been?
Not too bad. It's a bit overcast today. We're heading into a rainy time and cold as usual, so
Cool as, mate.
doing with that. Yeah. How's yourself?
Good, mate. Good. Can't wait for E3 on Monday.
Yep. E3 on Monday, and you had some updates from TiVo finally you were happy
Yeah, they've
about.
added, in Casper, they've added some new categories there, like trailers and Aussie films and New Zealand categories.
We've been getting cross at them for so long in Australia, they finally added something more than just being a PVR.
Exactly. Then I think they are going to be adding some more stuff very soon, I hear from the person from TiVo.
Hey, how about YouTube? That would be at least one thing nice.
Yeah, well, I hear they can't add it to do with something to do with some rights they have.
That
Shit,
sucks.
that sucks, but that's
Bloody Google.
but that's still something better than nothing, isn't it? We've adding,
Yeah, it's an update. Better than the stuff before they were taking stuff away from us.
Exactly, mate, exactly. Now I've also got an Apple TV being ordered. That's been sent to me. I'll get that on Monday,
Sweet.
and more info on that very soon. So I'm not going to let that out the bag yet. So I'll have a chat to you about that.
Stay tuned.
Yep. And any other stuff's been happening, Jason, with you? Any updates or Tech Webcast apps?
Yeah, well, I as you said, there was a bit of a problem with the Tech Webcast application running on the new iPad, which I'll still call iPad 3 because I can. So, and
Yep.
it should have better compatibility with the new iPad 3. There was just a bit of problem with the images on there. So this one.
Was it the
all
Retina
sorted.
display problems, or is it a
Yes,
different
that-
resolution? Okay.
Yeah, well, when I programmed it with Corona and they hadn't expected there would be issues with the iPad 3, and then once it came out, the S hit the F, and suddenly they realized they had to do an update. So I'd already released the app before then, and so since they've done the update, I've just done a re-release. So it's in review now with Apple. Hopefully they'll just push it through because there's not really much that's changed, just makes it work on the new iPad.
Sweet. Any other things you want to report on, mate?
That's about it for that one.
That's about it. Also, the new Samsung phone came out the other day in Australia.
Oh, everybody was excited about that.
I was. It's pretty cool.
They reckon Samsung's moving up to the #1 mobile phone seller.
What do you think of the phone?
I hadn't had a look at much about it, but a lot of people going off about it. Although I did have a friend who was complaining. They went to check it out and a few others, and they said the problem with the high-end Android phones that he doesn't like is they're getting too large for his pockets.
Okay.
So he said maybe he's going to have to look at an iPhone 5, and it'd be his first Apple phone product. He's got an iPad, but this would be the first phone product just because they're getting too wieldy for his pockets and just not as compact and useful as before.
Cool. All right, Steve, what's been happening to you, mate? Any other news? How's your week been, buddy?
It's been pretty good. Of course, started my new job. I'll be doing some filming for a project coming up tomorrow and next week. And I'm always trying to find new things to incorporate the show, like remote news broadcasts and stuff like that. Bringing the local community to you guys out in the internet land.
Can't wait to see that next week. Jody Rains. What's up, Jody Rains?
Hey, Brad. lots of stuff going on.
What have you been? What have you been doing?
What have I been doing? Well, not so much about me, but more about Facebook. The stock slid roughly 25%, 26% since the IPO. Last night they were hacked by Anonymous. Yeah, so they're
They're extremely overvalued in the first place. That's part of their problem. They didn't have anywhere to go down until they hit the right spot, and now it might climb up a little bit more, but they were started way too overvalued.
You know what? I think it's still overvalued, even at $26, $20, $25. They're saying a lot of the investors are waiting until it comes down to about $25 to jump in on. But they're saying that the true value is probably more like $7 a share.
Yeah.
So
Mark's not going to care. He's got the bucks, so he's happy.
Yeah, I think Zuckerberg is probably going to be interested in swallowing fire soon.
Yep. We got somebody on the show who swallows fire.
Yeah, we do. I cannot believe we have this guy on. This guy's a legend. And
so we'd like to welcome our guest, Brian Brushwood, the Schwood. Welcome to the show, dude.
Welcome.
Dude, thank you guys so much for having me on. It was weird to read that intro because I realized that that you guys are in the future. You're a whole day ahead of us. Like I'm still
Saturday afternoon.
Some of us anyway.
Saying it's Saturday.
Cool as, mate.
Or two of us.
Two of us, yeah. So we got any news today, Jason, or?
You want to start? Yeah, I'll do a couple of quick news stories before we get into it. From Sydney Morning Herald, Craig Barber is a chart-topping Apple app developer competing neck and neck in some markets with the popular Angry Birds game, despite the fact that 35-year-old from Coogee doesn't even know how to write a single line of code. Barber is one of the number of entrepreneurs who outsource the computer programming of their technology ideas online. His music app Car Audio Deck was funded US $6,360 by backers on crowdfunding website appbacker.com and made by a Chinese woman he's never met who bid $2,500 on outsourcing site freelancer.com to make his idea come to life. Now the app is raking in thousands of dollars in sales and is even some days ranked number 2 overall in Greece on Apple's paid iTunes App Store charts, competing head-to-head with Angry Birds Space. In other markets like Australia and the UK, it's topping in the top 100 paid apps under the music category. The 99-cent app, which took about 6 months to create from idea to completion, displays large on-screen buttons that make it easy for people driving cars to control the music being played on their iPhone or iPod Touch while they concentrate on the road, something Barber claims makes his app safer and easier to use when driving when compared to Apple's pre-installed iPod app that has smaller buttons and is more fiddly to use. And instead of iMac, you might have had a Mac Man, waka waka waka, if it wasn't for Kevin Segal. In an excerpt from his upcoming book published by Fast Company, Segal, the man behind Apple's Think Different campaign, tells the story of the first time he saw the iMac. In true Apple form, Jobs made everyone invited to the meeting wait to see the computer, then whipped a grey sheet off the device to reveal the computer that would put Apple back on the map. The group let out a collective "holy cow" and simply tried to absorb and appreciate what they were seeing because it shattered every idea of what computers were supposed to look like, Segal wrote in the excerpt. It was a colourful one-piece computer that showed off its inner circuitry through a semi-transparent shell. I'd like to believe we're all so smart. Within seconds, we were convinced that what we were witnessing was the start of a miracle resurgence, but it wasn't quite like that. Once the computer was on the fast track to production, the group was called together once again to come up with the name for the revolutionary device. Segal recounts Steve Jobs saying to the group, "We already have a name we like a lot, but I want you guys to see if you can beat it. The name is MacMan." After comparing the name to both Sony's Walkman and the popular arcade game Pac-Man, Segal suggested the name that finally stuck, iMac. Keeping the Mac in the name to let you know who made the computer and adding I to indicate the computer was designed to be used on the internet. The iMac name was not originally a hit with Jobs. It took a few attempts and a little persuasion to get him to stray from the MacMan name. Jobs also had the new name silk-screened onto the model of the computer to see how it looked, before finally settling on the name, one that would define not only that computer, but a legacy of iProducts in the future. So, how about that? You would have originally had a MacMan computer and a MacBook Pro, I guess. MacMan Pro.
Yep. Interesting. What's your thoughts on that, Brian?
Dude, that's amazing. I wish... it's so hard as Steve Jobs' shadow gets longer and longer for us to do anything but speculate on how insane of a larger-than-life character he actually was. And I could totally... I mean, that's consistent with all the stuff we hear about him, is that he is headstrong, he gets certain things stuck and falls in love with them. And so I believe it. But mainly, I'm really curious what stories we're going to be telling out of him 10 years from now, when all of a sudden they're like, and then he ate a gremlin, and then he shot fire from his eyeball.
I guess a lot of it will also come from the movies. People, regardless of whether things actually happened or were movie-fied for the movies, people are going to say, yeah, Steve Jobs was like that. You remember? We saw it in that movie, so it must have been true.
Yeah, when is that movie coming out?
Rumors about what's his name playing Steve Jobs? Ashton Kutcher.
Kutcher,
yeah.
That's one of the movies. It's an indie one, and then there's another one by Aaron Sorkin. He's going to do the bigger Hollywood movie, I guess.
Cool as. All right. Steve, what's your thoughts on them news stories, mate, as well?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how they get the certain names. What was that, Mac Man? Instead of Mac? Mac Man? Hey, do your Inspector Gadget there, Jason.
Sorry about that, Chief.
Okay, then.
All right, Jody, what's your thoughts on them stories?
I think we've officially jumped the shark.
Yep,
That's what I think.
Yeah.
No, I think the whole story of Steve Jobs is absolutely amazing. The fact that he was actually let go from Apple, fired from Apple, went on to develop, was it Pixar, and then went back to Apple. And the legacy of what he's given us is just still waiting to be discovered. I mean, it's funny. I had a conversation earlier with Chris Voss, and he was going on and on about the Windows 8 that was just released. And I said, well, what are the big changes in Windows 8? And he goes, well, you've got touchscreen, some kind of interaction, and they're also implementing apps. And I said, wow, so let me get this straight. You can do something that's kind of similar to an iPad, and now you've got apps. Okay. Yay.
Finally.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think we're going to be hearing a lot more about stories coming out of the woodwork about what Steve did and things that people have maybe never heard before.
Yep.
All interesting stuff.
It is very interesting. All right, we've got Brian Brushwood on.
Dude!
What's up?
Yes.
He's here.
Dude,
What is up?
I'll tell you what, you caught me. You might get some unfortunately honest answers right now because I'm in the middle of completely redlining for the next 4 days with chapters on Scam School Book 2. We started publicly announcing Scam School Book 2 was going to be on June 19th, and then I got distracted, and now I really have to finish the book in the next 4 days, and so it's these marathon 8-hour writing all these sections that you caught me in the middle of. As soon as I'm done here, I'm going to be writing for the next, I don't know, probably next 4 or 5 hours.
I'll have to get that one. It's going to be released on my daughter's birthday then, June 19th.
Oh, is that when your daughter's birthday is?
Yeah, June 19th, she turns 9.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great.
Good timing. How'd the first one go? I saw you had an iPad app and all sorts of things. iPad, iBooks.
Really well. We're using a publishing platform called Vook, VOOK, and it's sort of a one-size-fits-all. Part of the problem is as exciting as the digital publishing landscape is right now, it's utterly chaotic and fragmented. You've got competing standards that don't get along, and meanwhile, the Kindle version uses .mobi, and it's just so crippled and broken. It's not even as good as HTML 1.0. You can't wrap text around a picture on it. It's ridiculous. And so for over a year, I'd made noises about writing the Scam School book in an e-publishing format, but I wanted it to be really media rich, and it just wasn't possible, especially knowing that we would have to rewrite the book 3 times, based on different formats to participate on the 3 biggest stores. But Vook came along, and it's a cloud-based service where all you do is put everything together on their website. You press publish, and it creates a .epub version with rich media for iTunes. It creates a .mobi version for the Amazon Kindle store, publishes it. They handle all the agreements, and then they just cut you a check. They even have daily tracking software, let you know how well it's selling. It's really a revolution. And now Scam School Book 1, we were able to do things that no book has ever been able to do. Scam School is legitimately the most advanced book ever written for simple magic tricks. There's over 40 plus video illustrations. It's like a Harry Potter book. The pictures just come alive and show you how stuff moves. It's
magic, isn't it? So it has to be.
Yeah, well, exactly, right? Over an hour of audio commentary. We have commentary tracks giving supplemental information about each of the tricks, talking about how I learned it or when the best situation to do this trick or that trick or how to deal with a particular problem. Stuff that doesn't belong in the simple nuts and bolts of the explanation. but that is super valuable. And the feedback has just been exceptional. It's been so gratifying, and the book hit number 3 in the United States on the iTunes store, and I got a good feeling about on June 19th. What we're going to do to celebrate for book 2 is I'm going to drop the price for one day of book 1 down to 99 cents.
Wow.
And see if we can't scam our way to the top.
That is very cool.
That's
Oh,
very
wow.
That was
Good
something
idea.
similar you did with the launch of the other one too, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, we launched it at half price, and but we didn't want to do the exact same thing again because I actually got complaints where people are like, "Dude, I would have paid the $10 for your book. You didn't need to cut the price in half." And I was like, "But I want to make something special," and so I figured this is essentially the same effect, right? So if you already bought the first book, you can get both books for $11 now, which would be what 160 tricks and 2 hours of audio commentary, over 100 videos. I mean, it's a very special project, and as soon as we're done with book 2, it's going to be straight on to book 3.
Wow.
You always got so
wow.
much to keep them filled up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, luckily, there's no shortage of content. I mean, Scam School is up to 220 episodes. For those who don't know, Scam School is an entire show where each episode we teach you a usable bar trick, scam, or magic trick. And after hitting 220 episodes, you got an impressive back catalog of ideas to play with.
That was on the Revision 3 network or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, absolutely.
I've seen a few of the YouTube videos. What's also funny, as I mentioned, my daughter's birthday, is that she absolutely loves magic. I got her into watching Penn and Teller Fool Us.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
We just used to sit there every night watching that on YouTube and other places. And yeah, I think I would have to get the Scam School book and show that to her on the iPad and probably blow her mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if you watch that show, there's an interesting kind of story about how the internet works around traditional distribution. You probably saw the video of Piff the Magic Dragon.
Yeah.
Well, there was somebody on a Russian version of like America's Got Talent, basically, who note for note ripped off all of Piff's act, and it seemed to go over pretty well for the crowd that was in the room. Except one of the judges basically just says, "There's a more famous magician who does that act, and you have copied it move for move, bit for bit. The only thing that's different is you're holding a guinea pig instead of a chihuahua." And the guy just had no answer because he was totally unprepared. And it's like, what a different world we live in, where you have this dissemination where it's like it's so easy and transparent to get busted for crossing the line on stuff.
Everybody knows everything cool. You can't really just hide and expect people to have had their head buried in the dirt and not know what's going on.
Well, isn't there like big secrecy in magic? Like people, you worried about other people kind of taking your tricks and, between magicians, or you guys share freely between each other, or?
It's kind of weird. It's once you understand the fundamentals of magic, and in fact, there's been some academic papers written on how, in a world where you can copyright the words of a routine, you can patent the gizmos used, but when you patent it, you have to reveal it in the patent office, and when you copyright it, you're only copywriting those exact words. You can't really protect the essence of a magic trick. The best you could do is those protections. But the way magicians deal with it is by very, very strongly publicly shaming each other when they cross the line. When somebody has stolen another guy's act, the magicians self-enforce. And there are people who are going to go out of business. Teller is in the middle of leveraging. Somebody has wholesale ripped off one of his most beautiful artistic routines that I've ever seen. This effect where he cuts the shadow of a rose on a piece of butcher paper, but the rose itself gets cut at all those places. And somebody basically just knocked off the entire thing bit for bit. And they asked him to pull it down. The guy's like, "No, I'm not gonna. Whatever. I'm all the way in China. What you gonna do?" And now he's seeing the wrath of the entire magic community rallying around shutting this down. So it becomes this kind of self-enforcing thing. And it's been a very delicate line that we've had to cross with Scam School, because unlike if you write a book or you write a DVD, you get away with a lot because they're like, well, I'm not giving anything away. They have to buy the book. They have to go to the library to get a hold of it. But then after the backlash from the Masked Magician specials where they exposed a bunch of magic tricks and magicians got bent out of shape, I was very worried launching Scam School that magicians would not be cool with it. And much to my surprise, I think it's because we take a very respectful attitude towards magic, and we really make sure to name names on who the great minds are in magic that create these effects. It's something that we're trying to get more people into magic. Universally, it's been well beloved by magicians, and we have a lot of fantastic world champion guests. In fact, this week's episode, we have one of my all-time heroes in magic, Michael Amar, flew out to San Francisco just to be on the show. So it's been an interesting, terrifying, and very validating experience to start outside of the magic community, but then end up back with it.
I have one question for you, Brian.
Sure.
How do you eat fire?
Oh man, that's what we're covering right now. We're doing a 4-episode arc where I took a bunch of the Revision 3 hosts and took them step by step on how to eat fire. I mean, the short answer is thermal lag. If you've ever taken a lighter and lit it and just sort of ran your hand over it really fast, the reason that you don't burn is because the flame, it takes time for it to heat up your actual flesh to the point of burning. And essentially with fire eating, you are doing the exact same thing. The longer a torch burns, the fuel itself goes instantly from 0 to 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. But it takes a long time for it to heat up the wick and for it to heat up the flesh in your mouth. And so by taking advantage of that gap, by waiting just until that moment when you're about to get burned and then closing your mouth to snuff out that flame, you're able to create this illusion of being impervious to fire when, the truth is you just get burned a lot and you just don't really care at some point. It's like being a diabetic. Take your own shots.
So you work with Leo Laporte. How's that? How are you working with Leo Laporte? Are you enjoying that?
Did you get him to make fire?
Fantastic. And I, of everything, before I was a full-time magician, I worked in the tech field. I worked doing high-end sales support for Dell. We'd design networks or design workstations for high-end clients. And it was a good gig as far as the tech world went. But I remember coming home every day and watching tech TV and being super into the screensavers. Definitely. So there is weirdly some part of me that still geeks out every time the phone rings and it's Leo Laporte calling.
Did you get him to eat fire? I think you mentioned something recently on one of the podcasts that he did that.
Oh, yeah. No, we did. As a matter of fact, the first time I came out, the first time he had me on This Week in Tech, and it's really a testament to his desire to give everyone a chance, because he just knew me as the guy who hosts Scam School, an idiot who sticks nails in his eyes. But had me on his flagship show, This Week in Tech, and he's obviously I said something right because he kept inviting me back, and now we're hosting multiple shows on the network. But all of that happened just because he was like, why not? It's that highly experimental, why the hell not attitude that's worked out so well for Leo, and it's made so much possible over there.
Yeah, he was talking about got invited to go to the Blue Angels or something, but he didn't want to. He said, I've eaten fire, but there's no way I'm going up in those things. I'll just black out. I was like, now I know who must have got him to eat the fire.
I got a question for you, Brian.
Search on YouTube for Leo Laporte Eat Fire. You'll find it.
I'll check it out. Okay, Jody, questions?
Yeah, actually, we've got a lot of questions that are coming in from the chat. And someone mentioned, Brian, you'll know what this means more than I do. Mars or space elevator?
Oh, my gosh. This is a reference to my favorite podcast out of everything we do is a show called Weird Things, where it's me, the science fiction author Andrew Main, and my friend Justin Robert Young get together. We talk about news of the weird, whether it be, a supposed goblin uprising in the middle of Eastern Russia, or lately we've talked a lot about SpaceX and the exciting future possible because of private space travel. But there's every so often, it seems like once a year, instead of joking around, like stuff gets real, and we start really arguing. And a while back, we were arguing about which would be a better investment of resources, flying rockets to Mars, which I thought was wasteful and slow, or building a space elevator, which I felt like would open up, which is a riskier proposition, but would open up all of the universe to us. And then most recently we got into it because I feel like the first mission to Mars should be a one-way trip for one man. It's the only way it'll happen in my lifetime. And they thought it was utterly horrific, and we got pretty heavy into it.
You can only go up, but you can't come down.
Yeah.
Any more questions, Shady?
Well, yeah, we have another question. They want to know, once you eat fire, if you actually can still taste food.
Oh, sure. It's to be honest, I've been burned worse by pizza than by fire, because the difference is when you're eating fire, you're on guard and you're highly attuned to when stuff is starting to get warm. But like pizza, you're like, derpy der, let me, oh dear God.
I've done that before.
I've done that. Hey, Brian, out of curiosity too, I mean, you said you started as a geek. What got you started with this magic stuff?
You know, I never, ever in a million years thought that I would do magic full time. It was always just a hobby out of the blue. It was because I didn't know anyone at college. And I remember thinking, if I'm going to spend time learning a hobby, it ought to be a hobby that's kind of novel and that no matter where I end up in life would be good to have. And so that's how I picked magic. By the time I graduated from college, I was doing a few gigs on the side. And it seems like when I was working in tech, magic was my hobby. I'd come home from Dell and all I wanted to do was work on my crazy magic moves or perform for people. But then once magic became a job, tech became my hobby. It's like I'd come home and last thing I want to do is look at another torch or perform for anyone. I just want to play my video games and build another computer.
Hey, I got a question for you, Brian.
It's brilliant.
What sort of tech stuff do you get into, Brian? Do you like an iPhone, an iPad, that sort of thing? What's your favorite gadget?
I mean, I like the consumer devices just fine, but back in college, I was really into outbuilding systems with my friends. We'd have these benchmark equivalents of drag races where we'd render stuff and go out and blow $400 on another megabyte of RAM just so I could stick it to them on the benchmarks and show them run Doom faster. I mean, it's there's something beautiful about the hands-on nature of building your own desktop PC. And I'll tell you that lately I've really been into the tech of building this studio. I mean, now we are entering a golden age of complete decentralization for high quality production. So no matter what your message is, you can create a really good polished show with an affordably built PC in your own home studio.
Well, look at Steve's studio. He's off there. He's been doing it for like 3 years now. He's got a good studio there. Got really good setup.
Absolutely, it looks fantastic. In fact, I'm jealous. It's neat and nice and organized.
What's up with that, Steve?
I got to mess it up a little bit.
There we
You
go.
must have cleaned up for the show.
Yeah, I like stuck everything. Hey,
Have you ever had any of your magic tricks go wrong and get injured or hurt in some way?
Oh, yeah. Everything's taken a small bite out of me. I think I got a concussion a couple years ago, breaking a brick over my head. I burned my lips eating fire. I did one time I caught a bad bounce and started bleeding on stage, which is super embarrassing. But those are all things that, people, I get a lot of people who are young in magic asking for advice. Like, what do I do in this situation? What do I do in that situation? And, Penn and Teller have really been fantastic mentors to me, and they had the best advice. And the answer is only one thing matters. How much flight time do you have? Because once you have 10,000 flight hours, you've faced everything that you're going to face. So whatever's wrong with your show, it's nothing that 10,000 more hours won't fix.
Hey,
Just keep working on it. It's crazy that after all of that, the most you could say out of getting injured on stage is that it was a bit embarrassing from the blood. Most people go, oh no, you have to get rushed to hospital.
I mean, you know how it is. It's like when you're in the moment, you're almost in this like hypnotic state. You're obsessed with a million, and it's similar to what's happening right now. We have a live audience watching us. So even as one of us is talking, other people are wondering what's the right moment to interject an idea. And it's like your brain's going a million miles a second. And so when you're on stage, you don't even notice when stuff hurts because you're so amped up with all these other things. Mainly, you're like, crap, how am I going to cover this up? This is going to be
try not to screw up.
So when you're eating fire, I've always heard that you're not supposed to breathe in. You got to exhale. I can imagine.
No, you'll die. You breathe in. I mean, those flames really are 2,000 degrees, and if you inhale that's game over for your vocal cords. You're going to be all kinds of messed up. You gotta remember that heat goes up, so you want to position your body so that the flame naturally takes all or 90% of the heat straight up and out of your mouth. And then you also need to very slowly exhale. If you exhale fast, you're going to run out of breath, and you run that risk of going, and then you die.
Oh, I must have been doing it wrong though, because I usually bend over when I do it. But
No,
That's the wrong end.
yeah, I've been doing it totally wrong. But
Well, you wouldn't want to die because that'd be embarrassing as well, wouldn't
yeah,
it?
that too.
You'd be laying there dying, and you're like, oh, well, how am I going to cover this?
I've heard of artists dying on stage, but not quite that literal, right?
Yeah, I worry about that too.
All right. So tell us about your equipment and stuff, Brian, that you use in your studio, mate. What sort of
This was, I'll tell you, it's been when I first started, I spent $200 on just a crappy kit to build it myself from Tiger Direct. And because really I was thinking audio, maybe a little bit of web video or whatever. But once I started running VidBlaster, I saw what was possible with it, but you just needed so much more power to run at a decent resolution. So I started, I did another build, spent maybe $600 to upgrade the video card and upgrade the memory. But the thing was hilariously unreliable. It was just the saddest thing ever. And once we started doing shows on the Twit network, there was one time when it just couldn't keep up. And I was like, guys, look, I want this to work. I want to be able to put the show out live and on time. I don't know what's possible or not, but here's my PayPal if you want to chip in. And it was utterly amazing because within 20 minutes, there was enough donations from the fans. And this is why I don't ever get to tell my fans no. This is why they're the producers of the show. This is why I will do whatever stupid stunt they goad me into, because they, in 20 minutes, transformed this studio from a second-rate operation into what we're running right now. I mean, it's a little over a year old right now, but it's a overclocked liquid cooled. I think it's up at 4.6 gigahertz. i2700 with 16 gigs of RAM, 2 solid-state hard drives that are in RAID 0 for double the throughput, and a couple of 1 terabyte drives in here. This thing's a beast. We call it Night Attack.
Wow.
And it's fantastic. Amazingly, though, for the video side of things, we're still using Logitech C910s because I keep waiting for something better to come out, and so far it just hasn't happened.
Definitely.
There's a few people on the chat who wanted to hear about Night Attack, in fact.
It is a beloved beast.
The most popular computer since the Skyposaurus.
Definitely. JD, any more questions?
Yeah, just first of all, Brian, very, very impressed and appreciate your doing the show. And it's interesting. I'm watching the chat right now, and they're just talking about your hoping that you never inhaled.
Don't inhale. Sound like President Clinton.
He doesn't do drugs, and he never inhaled. Although if you look at the hairstyle, maybe it looks as though he has done drugs.
Yeah. When I first started, though, I remember I used to pass the hat. I'd go on during the band break of a little band called the Asylum Street Spankers in Austin, Texas. They would go on and take their break, and I'd get up and do pretty much the same 15-minute set every single week, and then I'd pass the hat and make maybe $50 or whatever. But it was the first gig I ever had where, because I was now kind of with the band, I could drink for free. Now, this is back when I'm, 22, 23 years old, and the idea of drinking for free at a bar out in public was, that's huge, right? Because I don't have to pay for my tab or nothing. And the first night I was taking liberal use of that ability, and then I got on stage, lit the torch for the fire eating, tilted my head back, and tried to focus. I was like, oh, this is going to suck. And made it through the fire eating, but it killed me trying to do a straitjacket escape while I was heavily buzzed. So that became the beginning of the no drinking before the show rule.
Good for you.
How did you pick this echidna hairdo stuff? That's your signature look?
Oh, that was just, I just wanted something that would be sticky and memorable. I went through a bunch of different phases. For 2 years, I had bright green hair, but it was really polarizing. And I guess online, the crazy video game looking hair is a bit polarizing as well, but not as bad as like the green hair. Green hair, people wanted to punch me for some reason. It was very weird.
It was more acceptable just to have spikes. I can see on Wikipedia the angry, spiky look.
That's cool.
Makes you wonder where they get these photos from and why they picked that one.
And it's all out of my control. I know that I remember taking that as a series of photos for a promotional thing, and I know a bunch of those have floated around because everyone, so much of the stuff is Creative Commons, and that's another delightful thing about the internet is the way everyone gets to build on other people's ideas, and there's sort of this mutual understanding that it's like, we're going to live in public and we're going to create things together, and you're going to pick it up and alter this song, and then you're going to change the graphics, and before we know it, we'll have this hilarious mashup rap music video about my hair or something,
Tell us about this human crazy straw. What's that about?
To be honest, it's so weird that's what really took off on my stage career, because it's essentially, if you've ever had somebody at your elementary school or junior high during spaghetti day take a piece of spaghetti, suck it up their nose, and pull it out their mouth. They call that the mental floss sideshow effect. And I always thought it was cool, but I'm like, man, I wish there was a way to make that really big and do it on stage. And sure enough, that's what we figured out how to do. And it eventually got me on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. They flew me out to Istanbul, Turkey. They flew me out to Indonesia for a live special where 70 million people were watching live.
Oh.
Basically, it's a giant tank filled with milk, suspended about 6 feet up. I wrap around 30 feet of clear tubing all around my body, finally running the end of it up my nose and out my mouth. And then you twist open the valve and you watch as I become this human crazy straw, and you watch the milk wind all the way around my body, finally going up my nose and shooting out my mouth.
Oh my God.
It's
Wow.
so nasty.
It is, yeah, very nasty.
It really is. It's like disgusting performance art.
You can't
What does
stop
your mother
looking.
say about this?
I can imagine.
So with it. The only time, she trusts that I'm no dummy as far as the safety side of things. There's certain things I don't do on the show anymore just because they run a significant risk of long-term problems. I was working on sword swallowing for a bit, but then heard too many horror stories of people messing up their vocal cords, so I dropped that. And I used to eat glass light bulbs, which the problem was it was stripping off the sealants on my teeth. And even worse for me was the texture of them was too close to chips and salsa. So when I tried to eat chips and salsa, I'd get all freaked out and I couldn't enjoy them anymore. So I quit doing it.
His mum says he used to be such a nice, quiet boy, and now he's just gone off. Somebody on the chat wants to know if you had piracy problems with your Scam School book or any of your other work.
Piracy is one of those really weird things, and this is something we talk a lot on our show Frame Rate about. It's not going to go away, and DRM only serves to make it worse. The only real protection you have is making people like you enough that they don't want to screw you over. And ways to make people like you do not include restrictive digital rights management schemes that are a pain in the ass to your paying customers. So instead, there are people who are like, hey, iTunes isn't in this area, that area. So we've got the entire book available DRM free at scamschoolbook.com, to where you get all 3 different versions with it. And someone could. It probably is up on the torrents right now. But you know what else is out there are all the episodes of Scam School. So it's like, I mean, you could get it for free, but it's like I don't know what you would get out of it. And so it's like I'm not down with DRM. I'm just going to let it go.
I think the reputation helps as well. It'll be kind of like with the magic stuff you were saying, where the magicians back each other up. If somebody said, "Oh, I copied Brian's book, aren't I cool?" They're like, "No, dude, that's not cool." Like the other guy who was saying, you should have left it at $10. That's the kind of following you've got with the reputation for the kind of work you do, is that people want to support you.
Yeah, well, and I'll tell you, it's one of those things where the fans of any variety really respond when they're trusted and treated as adults. For a while ago, Bethesda, when they released Oblivion, Elder Scrolls 4, was it? 4? Yep. They had a very restrictive DRM scheme on it, and people were very upset. And so they said, you know what, screw it. No DRM whatsoever. So they released it with no DRM at all. And I'm sure it was outrageously pirated at the time. It was so easy to get a hold of for everyone. It took out the 5 whole minutes it would take to install a patch to correct it. And meanwhile, they made money hand over fist, and now they're one of the most popular, well-respected, and talented video game creation companies out there, one of the most successful ones. So it's tough to really believe these overblown assessments of what piracy is doing in terms of damage.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've written a couple of apps for the iPhone, and I've just released both of them free, and I'm happy that there are a lot more people using it rather than just trying to capitalize on the money at this stage. I mean, once I've had some experience and got more professional, sure, charge 99 cents, but at this stage, just seeing a lot of people downloading it and enjoying it's more important.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually,
So Brian, so you like enjoying chatting with Leo and that sort of each week? So do you do the show each week with him and then that sort of thing?
Well, no. What's funny is I see Leo a little bit more because I've been out there working on Game On. But for the most part, Leo kind of lets us run our own idiot box with NSFW. And I do get to hang out a lot and talk with Tom Merritt every week on Frame Rate, which is nice.
And you have all that fun with Dvorak making fun of you for saying, dude!
Oh, my God.
That cracks me up every time.
Yeah,
I wish I had Dvorak's ability to say the most crass, divisive things, but somehow sound adorable while he does it.
We should get him on the show.
We should.
Yeah.
We should get him on.
The cranky geek himself.
He's a legend, that guy. Steve, questions, mate. Go ahead.
yeah, I just recently watched one of your scam schools, and it was kind of amazing. It was just a plain rubber band, and just the simplicity of just using regular everyday objects. And I guess it's the one where you take a rubber band and you break it apart and then you put it back together again or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the goal with Scam School, and it's a difficult line to cross. Number one, first and foremost, I want the show to be entertaining. I want you to, from beginning to end, have a good time for the 10 or 15 minutes we hang out. Number two, everything we teach on the show has to be dead simple, because it would be, if I were to get up there and show you how to vanish a Statue of Liberty, that is not a trick you're ever going to do, and all I'm doing is ruining David Copperfield's hard work. So everything we do has to be something that we hope people will actually try, and that the barrier to entry has to be so low that even that later that night, without review, 3 beers into it at the bar, they could just pull out a deck of cards and try the thing they half remembered from that morning and still have a reasonable chance of pulling it off. And number 3, we want everything to be done with regular objects. We don't want... It takes a special breed of person to, before he heads out of the door every single time, make sure he's carrying 4 or 5 little gimmicked things on his body so that he's ready to do magic. And most people are not going to be that way. So therefore, we want it to be everything with impromptu objects. We want you to be able to be hanging out at the Office Depot and look over and be like, oh, hey, look at this rubber band. Let me show you a trick.
Yeah, there's going to be 2 types of people who watch the show. Those who are just there to enjoy it, and those who are like, man, I wish I could do that, and then go home and practice it, or buy the book and then watch it over and over and perfect it at home.
Besides, where are you going to get a Statue of Liberty anyway?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
All right. Any more questions, Jody, in the chat room there for Brian?
They said they want to talk about Sky 5.
Oh, that's right.
So, are you guys hip to the folks over at Record Setter? Do you know what they're doing over there?
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it.
Record Setter started off as the URDB, the Universal Records Database, and essentially they looked at what Wikipedia did to Encyclopedia Britannica. They said, this is amazing. They essentially just took a crowdsourced thing that everyone was doing for free, and they took down one of the most hallowed institutions in education. So they said, why don't we attempt to do that with the Guinness Book of World Records? Because right now, the way Guinness works is they're all, you have to go and ask if you could make up a record, and they have some council that decrees whether or not you're allowed to have sword swallowing be a record, and should it be by length or by number of swords, and thou shalt know, blah, blah, blah. Who is the fattest man? Is this now a record that we want to have, and so on? Whereas their thing was the opposite. They're like, totally crowdsource, make an account, just upload a video of you doing it, define what the record is, and now you have a world record. Their attitude is everyone in the world can be the best in the world at something, and your job is to go out and figure out what you could be best at. And so we had, I think it was our 3rd or 4th episode of NSFW. We had Dan Rollman of the URDB on, and we had people Skype in and break records live on the air. Including one poor kid who tried to chug 64 ounces of Gatorade and ended up vomiting right there on the live stream, which got me a very stern letter from Leo Laporte. The next, but one of the things we did was at a live stage event at South by Southwest, we were on stage with the guys from Record Setter, and we wanted to come up with a record. And so we invented the Sky Five, where basically it's a running high five where we just leapt up from the farthest distance apart and high-fived each other in midair. But we took it to the max. We both had these crazy jumpsuits on, wearing sunglasses, looking like Fat Elvis. It was a trip. The Sky Five was a hell of an event.
Cool.
You need to do one where you like launch from cannons or something at each other and high five on the way past into nets.
That'd be cool.
No way that could possibly go wrong.
No, absolutely.
Head-on collision.
Or launch from a trebuchet. That'd be nice. Add a bit of medieval flavor, right?
Yes.
With some battle axes.
Yeah. Clang in the midair.
Crazy.
All right. So, any more questions, Jody, in the chat room there? Steve, any more questions for Brian?
I think I got them all.
Yeah, a 1. Question 0, Brian 10.
Oh yeah.
I lost. Hey, we lost the game there, Brad.
Yes, we did. We lost the game. We lost the game to Brian Brushwood.
Yeah.
What's some of your most memorable shows that you've done?
Oh man, like appearances?
Yeah.
Appearances, yeah.
TV, whatever.
Doing the special out in Turkey was really something, because when they said Istanbul, Turkey, I'm like, oh yeah, no, it's I guess it's Europe, right? And I got out there and it's right in that mushy zone where it's like, man, this is not Europe. I mean, it's technically Eastern Europe, but you know, like they didn't even take the euro over there. They were using their own currency, and there's it had a very you could tell you were at the gateway to the Middle East. And doing the show was so interesting because there was, of course, language barriers. But they wanted me. There's some really quirky footage of me doing psychic surgery on this show, and they wanted me to do a full segment of it. So it's just a very bizarre 5 full minutes of me pulling out chicken guts from a guy's stomach on national television.
Oh wow,
Cool,
crazy.
Yeah, I guess that's something about magic, is a lot of it is just visual, so it will cross a lot of language barriers and borders, won't it?
Well, certainly, but then also, you know, thanks to the internet, people are becoming a lot more savvy and sophisticated, to where it used to be back in the 80s, you could take 6 full minutes of doing nothing but that effect, and a nation would be transfixed. But nowadays, you know, you see this kind of thing, and it gets passed around so quickly that you sort of have to kind of like move along faster with a lot of. I know that my act has sped up considerably over the last 10 years. I look at videotape from performances, 10 years ago, and I'm like, wow, it took a long time till I got to the meat of that one.
All right. Jason, any more questions, mate?
So you're gonna plan to go to Australia anytime soon?
That's what I was going to ask. Actually, that's
Oh my God, you guys have no idea how badly I want to go to Australia. You realize there's one other Brian Brushwood in the world, and he works in the tech business, and he lives in Australia. And I've only had a couple of interactions with them, but I know that on his Google Plus page, it says, I'm Brian Brushwood. And it's like, no, not that one.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, you'll have to come over, check out Sydney and Melbourne.
Yeah, come to Melbourne and Sydney, yeah, but come to Melbourne first.
All right, done and done.
I have a quick question while we're talking, since you mentioned Google Plus. Between all the different formats, you've got Facebook and Google Plus, and you've got Quora and Twitter. Do you have a favorite platform?
You know, there are certain things about Google Plus that I really, really like. Obviously, the Hangouts are fantastic. I like the fact that out of all the platforms, I think Google Plus lends itself the best to having reasoned discourse in the comments section. You actually have good commentary and good feedback, and it lends itself well to that interaction. Full disclosure, it probably helps that for a while Google had me on their recommended people to follow. So I got a crap ton of people who have no idea who I am who are following me.
Yeah, I keep on getting that. I don't know why.
What's that?
I said I keep on getting that. I don't know why. Just your picture keeps on popping up.
That's right. You can't
Google
escape.
Plus.
You'll have to follow him.
Yeah, or die.
Follow this guy, or we'll send the boys around.
Yeah.
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 Have you ever done any impromptu Google Hangout just to do quick couple of tricks or something and see what
I
people
do, as a matter of fact. I will. I'll pop in and just say hi to folks. And it's even more fun now because finally VidBlaster has come out with the virtual video device that allows me to to participate in the Google Hangouts using the live video switching from VidBlaster.
Oh, okay. And how are you enjoying the shows you're doing on Leo's network? You have a lot of response back from people and ideas and stuff, feedback?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, everything that the difference between the presence online that I had before Leo was kind enough to offer me a place on the network and after is like night and day. And it was really interesting to see how at first Justin and I came in and were kind of loud and brash and obnoxious. And this is us toning it down for being on Twit. And at first there was this hostility, but over the last 2 years, it's been interesting to see how we've wormed our way into the hearts and minds of the gang over at Twit and how much of our DNA has mingled with theirs. And now I'll hear jokes that we will make up on NSFW being referenced and showing up on other shows on the network as well, which is, very satisfying.
So how many shows do you actually do?
Sorry?
So how many shows do you actually do? It sounds like you do quite a few. Of course, I know Scam School, but...
Yeah. The biggest and most popular one right now is Scam School, of course. Scam School, up around 220 episodes and counting. That one gets downloaded about 1 million times a month, last I heard. NSFW is way, way smaller, but much more passionate in their fan base. The Diamond Club are the hardcores who show up at a moment's notice. In fact, there's we get into some of the most interesting shenanigans of my lifetime. They took it upon themselves when they just make my name a trending Twitter on Twitter, or a trending topic on Twitter, and sure enough, they pulled it off. I'm terrified and in awe of those fans. Frame Rate is a smart show that I do with Tom Merritt, where we talk about the changing face of media and about how people are trying to cut the cord and go without cable and how the industry is shifting in that regard, making things possible. And then, of course, the Weird Things podcast is my favorite one, where we talk about news of the weird with Andrew Main and Justin Robert Young.
Cool. What's your view on about cutting the cable, Brian? Are you into cable TV or what?
You know what? If I could cut the cable, I would do it in a heartbeat. I hadn't previously because the kids were watching a bunch of the kids shows programming on there, but lately they've really taken to Netflix and they know how to run it on the Xbox now. So now literally the only reason I am setting fire to $80 a month is so I can watch Game of Thrones on Sunday nights. And as soon as that is over with, I'm going to cut.
That's the biggest pirated show in Australia at the moment because we're still waiting to see it on our free-to-air or anything.
Yeah.
Cable's not as big here.
And how it's really HBO's own fault. And I understand HBO is they're making a gamble here. They're saying it's worth it for us to intentionally create this black market by not making our stuff available because we think we're going to get more subscriptions out of it in the long run. And maybe they're right, maybe they're not. But I just don't see, when you utterly refuse to make any sensible way for people to watch just one of your shows, then you can't be surprised when people run away and they go to the only way that they can get their hands on it.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, because of the globalization with the internet and stuff, people have so many friends in the US and that going, oh, wow, this Game of Thrones is awesome. You listen to podcasts, watch shows, everybody's talking about it. And you're like, well, when do we get a chance to, participate in this really cool phenomenon? And they're like, well, we're going to restrict that as much as possible. You get it when you get it. So people want to be part of that excitement.
Well, and even then, it's like you'll get it when you'll get it, and the only way you'll get it is by spending $20 or $30 for a full-on subscription. We're not going to let you pay $3 an episode to download it in HD. I ran into a bit of that with season 2 of Sherlock because I was so excited for it, and of course, it came out in the UK months before it came out in America, and we're constantly questioning ourselves about what constitutes ethical versus what constitutes legal, and I don't know if it's ethical or legal. But what I ended up, I almost broke down and BitTorrented the episode, which I knew for sure would have been unethical and illegal. But then instead, I ended up using a VPN, a virtual private network, to tunnel over to make it look
UK.
like my computer was in London, where I just watched it on the BBC's iPlayer site. And so I was like, is that illegal? Is that unethical? I don't know.
Well, there's some people having problems playing like HD versions of movies on their, I think, like iPad 2. So, they're wanting to get like 2 versions or something like that. And, I had the same type of problem.
Do you have an iPad 3, Brian, or?
I did not. I actually am still rocking my iPad 1, mainly because, I got an iPad 2, which the missus instantly stole. And so the problem is the difference between the iPad 2 and the iPad 3. Weirdly, if I had an iPad 2, I wouldn't even think about getting an iPad 3.
Oh, you need an iPad 3, right? The screen's fantastic.
Well, that's what I hear. I hear it's gorgeous, but it's also bulkier and it takes 4 times longer to charge. And also, there's a price you have to pay for that's more pixels to push. Whereas, like the iPad 2, I don't know how much better video games look if you have to take a hit on frame rate versus resolution.
Nova 3 on the iPad 3 looks fantastic.
That's great. Awesome.
Yep. Very cool.
I don't know that I want it. The problem also is if I get one, I'm going to go all out, and it's going to be $1,000 purchase, and I'm going to be getting, the 4G on. And it's like, I don't want to invest in that just yet.
Yeah, at least you'll have real 4G, not our fake 4G.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You guys
LTE,
got
I
into a whole
guess.
tizzy over there.
Yeah, we got really upset about that. You can't call it 4G if it's not really 4G. And over in the US, they go, yeah, well, it's faster. It'll do. Who cares?
You're
Don't
lucky
worry
enough we're
about it.
sending
This
over
is not
iPads
the 4G you're
there.
looking for.
Stop whining, you Aussies.
All right. Okay. Well, is that it, Jason? Is that it? Oh, it's 60
Yeah.
long podcast, mate.
This is the longest podcast we had, I think.
I think it's
Ever.
very
But
long.
it's so epic and fun.
It is very cool to have Brian Brushwood on. You're a legend, mate, and we love your stuff.
Thanks for
Well,
coming
thank you guys so much for coming on, and do me a favor, keep me in mind come June 15th. June 19th when we release Scam School Book 2. Our goal is to have everybody buy it at noon Central Time on June 19th, and then we'll trick the servers at iTunes for one hilarious hour. We'll be convinced that it's a #1 bestseller.
We could.
There
And
we go.
tell Leah that we all said hi too. And we're all fans.
All right, I'll pass that on.
Great. And where do we find you on the internet, Brian? Just in case there's one person who doesn't know.
Yeah, just look up the word Schwood, SHWOOD. You can go to schwood.com. I'm at Schwood on Twitter. You could go to gplus.2/Schwood. Just type it. Luckily, there aren't too many Brian Brushwoods out there.
Just the
Except
both
for
of
the
you.
Australia. I'm really sorry, Brian.
There's only one.
There can be only one.
There is only one. All right. Thanks, Brian, for coming on, mate.
Take care, guys. Thanks so
Thanks,
much for having
pleasure.
me on.
All right. That's Brian Brushwood. Jason.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was very
awesome
awesome
show.
chatting with you. Great
Best
show.
show we've had.
Yep. Very cool. So any last word before we go, Jason? You want to mention any, mate?
Yeah, they have got the, I don't know if anybody's tried it out, the Touch Arcade iPhone app is now out. So if you want to look up what's the best apps and without actually going to their site, I actually like the interface on it. It's very clean. It's very nice looking. You can watch new apps that have been announced, and then it'll notify you when any reviews come out or any updates in prices or new features, that sort of thing. It's very handy to have.
Cool.
And notifies you of the latest things, of price cuts and all that sort of thing. So I really like it.
Very cool. I just can't believe we had Brian Brushwood. And that's fantastic. He's a legend, that guy.
He is. He's great.
The stuff he does is it's amazing, isn't it?
Mind blowing.
It is very, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, JD? What's your thoughts on Brian Brushwood? Did you enjoy the chatting with him?
Oh, absolutely. I think he's brilliant. And I particularly like the fact that he mixes the entertainment factor with the geekiness.
Yes.
And I don't know if you were watching the chat, but it lit up with everybody making diamonds for him. And
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
See, I couldn't do
I
it
don't know if
right.
he felt the love.
I think he did.
He was telling me how to do it, and I was doing it totally wrong, screwing it up.
Yes, you were.
I was like,
But that's normal.
All right,
Cool,
let's
cool,
let's
cool.
wrap the podcast up,
Yep.
guys. Upload the video. JD, where can they find you on Twitter and the interweb and stuff?
You can find me on Twitter as Sunswept, and you can find me at my website, webmarcom.net. And you can find me here at techwebcast.info.
Wicked. And also me, Brad, I was on a tech webcast. Jason.
Yeah, Warlock on Twitter, WAULOK, and bluebilby.com.
Steve-O, we're going to find you.
And
mate.
you can find me right here on this station live where you're watching on justin.tv/Linux Cool Dude at
Hey,
9 p.m.
look,
Central
viewers on
every
the show.
Friday.
What's that? A lot of viewers. You know, you had like 51 viewers.
Yeah, that's quite a lot. Thanks for coming by and watching us, and of course Brian
thanks for
Brushwood.
coming on. It's and thanks Brian Brushwood coming on, mate. You're a legend, and hopefully he'll come back and chat with us again.
Do some magic
Catch you all
tricks.
next week.
Yeah, see you next week. And you lost again, Steve Klingon.
Nah.
You always lost,
Klingon.
Steve. Yeah.
Hi,
Krogan,
Glenn from Aussie
Klingon.
Tech Heads. Join Will, Eric, and myself as we bring you the latest, most up-to-date, important tech news that affects you from Australia and the world. Weekly podcast available each Friday through iTunes. Watch the live stream recording of the show at live.thesecrethub.com each Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. or GMT plus 10. Call in live via Skype or chat in our lounge. However you get us, just make sure you do. Listen or visit our website for more information, www.aussietechhead.com.au. Aussie Tech Heads, Australia's longest-running tech news podcast.
Well, that's it for Tech Webcast this week. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed having your mind expanded. Tune in next week for more tech talk with Brad, Jason, and whatever crazy guest they've managed to rope in. Don't forget to get the Tech Webcast app from iTunes. Follow us on Twitter at Tech Webcast, and of course, check us out on Facebook too. Until next time, may the tech be with you. Peace.
And it's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Wrap.
Yay.
job.
All right.
It was. I didn't want to bust in when you guys were talking about me, but that was kind of weird. I'm like, I'm still here, guys.
Oh yeah, I forgot, man.
I thought you
I
left.
wasn't sure. Sometimes Brad hangs up or people hang up as soon as we finish talking. So.
No, yeah, that's cool.
And then you hear, darn that, Brian Brushwood.
Yeah, he's like,
Yeah. Oh
Darn
man, that
him.
was terrible.
I got a book coming out in June. You should buy my book.
Yeah.
Please, somebody buy it. Anyone?
Oh boy.
We'll help push it though. I mean, that's absolutely what we'll do.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Brian,
thanks a lot.
Hey, speaking of which, I really do need to run back and get back to writing, but thank you very much again for having me on.
thank you.
Great to have you on the show.
Thanks, mate.
All right, take
Thank
care.
you.
Thanks.
Oh, wow.
That was
Is he really
Brian
gone this
Brushwood.
time, or is he still pretending?
I-